Yes, how are you doing?
Mr. Champion is here with his attorneys, Honorable Joanne Lynch and Honorable Audrey Woosnam, and the Commonwealth's represented by the Commonwealth's attorney, Honorable Carrie Obie Wiggins, Honorable G.L. Obie, and Honorable Jill Giordano. We're here for a sentencing hearing this morning, and Ms. Lynch and Ms. Woosnam, have you all had an opportunity to review the pre-sentence investigation report with Mr. Champion?
Yes, Judge, we have.
Any additions or corrections to it?
Judge, a couple of minor corrections. Looking at what's marked for us as general page 41, but it's also marked as page 40.
All right.
In the first paragraph, the second to the last sentence, there's just a typographical error. There's the word property, and I don't know if you can see that, but that should actually be the word properly.
All right.
And on the following page, which is marked as general page 42, also marked as page 41, there appears to be a sentence fragment at the very top of the page that's unrelated to this pre-sentence investigation, so we would move that that be struck.
It will be so.
And Judge, other than that, we have no other corrections to make with the PSI. We've also looked at the custody time credit documentation, and Ms. Woosnam in particular recalculated that. The total number of days listed is correct as of yesterday, which was January 26, 2017.
All right. Thank you. Do you wish to then say anything on Mr. Champion's behalf?
Judge, just briefly.
You may.
Judge, and everyone in the courtroom, we want to acknowledge and to say that we wish condolences and are very sorry for the deaths of Joy and Lindsay and Emily Champion. We also acknowledge the death of Vito Reservato. We especially want to acknowledge Lisa Champion, Lindsay Champion, Lauren Champion, and thank you, and Judy Williams for their courageous and compassionate decision to allow a plea agreement to go forward in this case. They deserve acknowledgement for their courage and their compassion. We also acknowledge the work of Carrie Obie Wiggins and her staff. They were professional and civil throughout these proceedings, and we appreciate their willingness to engage in plea negotiations. We truly hope that the end of legal proceedings will grant to everyone who wishes it the privacy that they need to continue to mourn and hopefully to continue to heal from the tragic and the senseless deaths in this case. We also wish and hope that Ryan will continue to grow in learning empathy and compassion, will continue to grow as a whole human being, and that eventually, today, perhaps not, a year, perhaps not, but sometime in the future, he can be recognized not simply for the horrible and tragic acts that led us to the courtroom today, but he will be recognized for more than the worst things that he has ever done. We appreciate the first step in that, which is allowing him to resolve this. And we also appreciate the court's time and the court's handling of this situation with respect and dignity. And we wish everyone as much peace and healing as you can find today and going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lynch. Does Mr. Champion wish to make a statement on his own behalf this morning?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Woosnam, anything else from defense counsel at this time?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Obie Wiggins, on behalf of the Commonwealth, it's not unusual for me to hear not only from the Commonwealth but from victims, so proceed, please.
Yes, Your Honor. In a few moments, we are going to ask you to sentence the defendant consistent with the plea agreement and sentence him to life without the possibility of parole for these horrendous crimes that he has committed. But before I ask you to do that, there are three individuals, three family members that would like to make a victim impact statement. Judy Williams, Lauren Champion, and Lisa Champion are all. Judy Williams is going to go first with her victim impact statement, and her daughter would like to accompany her to the podium. If that's
Be fine.
agreeable.
It is. So please come forward, Ms. Williams. All right.
Our lives will forever be divided into before and after October 26, 2014. You decided to take three precious lives, Joy, Lindsay, and Emily. They were and continue to be loved by many people, and you decided to end their lives. You planned what you would do, and you carried it out. I cry every day wondering what my sister thought in those last few seconds of her life. After she walked into the basement and saw you standing there with a gun in your hand. The shock and disbelief she must have felt to see her son standing there and knowing she was going to die by his hand. I find some peace in knowing that she closed her beautiful blue eyes on evil, and when she opened them, she saw Jesus. What did Joy and Lindsay say to you when they saw you standing there with a gun? Did they ask you what you were doing or why you had a gun? Did they have time to say anything? What ugly, hurtful things did you say to them? And Emily, sweet Emily, what hell did you put her through? How long did you torture her? How long was it after you shot her the first time did you shoot her again and again? There is no punishment great enough for what you have done. Our family is broken and devastated and will never recover. We will always be living one day at a time. You have denied them many, many years of happiness and the ability to make memories. You stole that from them and us. I know these words spoken here today will mean nothing to you. You are incapable of feeling anything except for yourself. You've always been that way. That part of a person that makes them human is missing in you. You care only about yourself. You have no heart, no compassion, no soul. You are an empty shell. And now that shell will be kept in a box with bars, locked doors, tall fences, and razor wire. A cage. You will be kept in a cage just like an animal, just like you deserve. You put on a good show October 20th, 2014. We had early Thanksgiving because Emily was home, and she hadn't been able to be home for the holidays for several years. There you sat, eating and laughing with all of us, and all the time you knew what you were planning. Looking back, we believe you hinted about your plans when you and Gary were outside smoking. What a big man you must have felt like that night. I don't think you feel like that big man today. Your evil actions took three precious lives away from us. Joy, Lindsay, and Emily are gone because of you. What a waste. They were good, decent, humble, kind Christian people. They will be forever missed by those of us who love them. You could have done anything with your life. You spent your time hating Joy, Lindsay, and Emily. You spent your time being jealous of Emily's success. She was successful because she worked hard toward her goals. She didn't waste her time being jealous of what someone else was doing. You're smart, and if you had only applied yourself to do good things in life instead of evil, your possibilities were endless. You had the opportunity to go to college and become whatever you dreamed of being, but you decided to murder your parents and sisters. What a waste. Your feelings of entitlement, greed, jealousy, and hatred of the people who loved you the most were yours alone. There are people who forgive the person responsible for their loved one's death. That will never happen in this case. God will deliver the final, ultimate judgment, and I trust him to be fair and swift with his justice. You are responsible for the murder of Joy, Lindsay, and Emily. The journey you started us on that beautiful Sunday morning in October will never end. You murdered my family. Joy, my beloved sister and best friend. The only one in the world who understood me because we had lived through our childhood together. Childhood changed us, and no one in the world will ever be able to understand except us. Our mother was diagnosed with brain cancer when she was 34. I was 6 and Joy was 3. We never knew where we would be at night because Mama could go to Vanderbilt at any time. I learned to pack our suitcase and take care of Joy. She gave me a guardian angel charm a few years ago and said I was always her guardian angel while growing up. We survived our childhood together, and all the tragedies of life, we faced them together. Joy was a second mother to my daughter, a grandmother to my grandchildren. She loved them like they were her own, and they loved her more than words can say. She was a strong Christian and loved her family. Lindsay, my brother-in-law, a devoted husband and father, a hard-working, strong Christian man who loved his God and his family above everything else. Emily Catherine, a brilliant, beautiful, talented, hard-working young woman. She loved her dream job of working with horses. She made that goal when she was a little girl, and she worked toward that goal every day. She had a bright future ahead of her, and you stole that from her. 3 beautiful lives gone by your hand. A family devastated, never to recover, all because of you. What a waste. They deserved more time, more memories, and so did we. Yet here you sit. I know you have no sorrow, no remorse. Your only thoughts are of yourself. You deserve the maximum sentence that law allows, and that won't even come close to what you deserve. The remainder of your life will be in a place with bars, locked doors, and razor wire. You will never breathe a breath of free air. You will never have someone who loves you fix your favorite meal for your birthday. You will never have anyone care about you. You see, you murdered the 3 who cared the most for you, and you murdered all those feelings in those of us that were left behind on October 26, 2014. What a waste.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Lisa Champion.
Ms. Champion.
Judge Woodall. I entitled my impact statement, "Where do I start?" I researched this. I'm a person that likes to know the rules, and I follow the rules. I researched this, and I rewrote it because the first one was very graphic and wasn't appropriate because it did not address how the actions this person that we accepted into our family years ago as a little baby, what they've done to us. So I did rewrite it. 26 months and 1 day ago, until mid-morning, October 26, 2014, my life was perhaps boringly routine. I was content with life on the farm, daily seeing Lindsay and Joy, and following Emily with her horse doctoring journeys on Facebook. Around 11:15 that Sunday morning, Lindsay and Joy's lives were stolen from me. Though not certain of the time Emily was taken, a window of time is assumed. I was not forewarned of what I would discover at the house when that tale was rehearsed to me shortly after 11:15. Listening to the 911 calls, the two different ones that I made, it was evident. Instead, I discovered the carnage. Perhaps this was the intent to kill me daily by the images of my family searing into my senses. Continually, daily, the last images of my family here on the farm. Oft I wished I was with them, for the pain is unfathomable. Frozen in my mind are the final images I have of Lindsay, Joy, and Emily at their house. That same house that once harbored joyful memories was then transformed into a temporary tomb for them until near 6 a.m. the next morning, October 27th. In my desperation, I waited all night in the driveway to glimpse the final time any of them would travel down the driveway. The same driveway that Lindsay traveled with numerous vehicles, trucks, tractors, backhoe, Jeeps, the same driveway that Joy would walk daily with her dogs or ride her bike, the same driveway that Emily drove down for the last time on Saturday, October 25th. My dear friends and friends of Lindsay and Joy, Danny and Jan Heltsley, remained with me all night. Their lives, too, are permanently affected by this massacre, as our other friends and family members' lives have been permanently scarred that have supported us. Frozen in my mind is phoning my little brother and saying, "Get over here. Lindsay, Joy, and Emily have been murdered." Frozen in my mind is hearing Judy's wail when I told her in person, because I didn't have her cell phone number and I had to tell her in person when she arrived at the farm. Lindsay, Joy, and Emily have been murdered. I know the exact location in the yard when I told her. Frozen in my mind is the field that Lindsay had carefully seeded the day before, October 25th. The seeder still hooked to the tractor because he planned on working further that Sunday afternoon. That field Sunday afternoon was populated, not with the anticipation of sprouting seedlings, but a swarm of sentries summoned to sift through the evidence at the house. The field and house that night was transformed into a spectral scene of glaring lights piercing the once tranquil homestead. Glaring lights reminding our neighbors and friends that our neighborhood would never be the same for many reasons. Frozen in my mind that Monday, the start of disassembling the house of the fragments of their lives, packing and sorting their belongings, a task that is still not fully completed after 27 months. The task of choosing clothing that Lindsay, Joy, and Emily would wear to the end of this world. Choosing caskets to encase their bodies that once were so vibrant, full of life for themselves and others. These caskets, later that Sunday afternoon the following week, were encased at Lawrence Cemetery, just a short jaunt from our home. Frozen in my mind, the visitation and funeral. The funeral procession, 3 vehicles carefully toting Lindsay, Joy, and Emily right down here through Main Street from the school that all 3 of them graduated from, the same school that Joy worked at for 30 years, the street that they all traveled so many times. Now that street led them to their final soil. That image too seared into my mind, their last ride. Again, the impact on me, where do I start? Sunday morning, I continually watched the clock, thinking this is what was going on, thinking what Emily was going through because she was at the house, thinking around 11:12, 11:15, I heard the gunshots, and thinking these don't sound like the normal gunshots I hear around the house from 22 rifles. So Sunday mornings, I wish I could just delete from my life because they're horrendous, they're horrible. The word gun or bullet causing me to flinch, knowing my family perished by such. But that gun and bullet needed a carrier to kill them. They didn't do it on their own. gunshots when I hear them. Flashbacks of hearing those gunshots that I heard Sunday morning. Duct tape, something I need on the farm or around the house. I cannot even use gray duct tape anymore because when I see gray duct tape, all I see is the image of Emily, her face and head taped up that looked like a cocoon, her little hands taped up like mittens. That's what I see whenever I see duct tape. Another effect, crying at the gun counter of the department store where the bullets were purchased that murdered my family. Additionally, that same store I no longer frequent because the mother of Vito Riservato works there. I avoid it. I've struggled to maintain a job I loved and I still love in the past 27 months, often working 18 hours a day between that job and my farm. The job that I was preparing for that Sunday night, I was going to do lessons to the Mexicans on the farm. But at 5 o'clock, I was meeting with Joy, Lindsay, and Emily. We were going to have soup because Emily was leaving the next day to depart on her new journey in New Orleans at a different racetrack. I was preparing my lessons that Sunday morning so I would be ready after I had soup with Joy, Lindsay, and Emily. That crock pot was still going with the soup on it. The soup burned up, seared into the crock pot, just like all these images are seared into my mind now. I lost my confidant, Joy, not just a sister-in-law, but she was a best friend. I could discuss anything with her bluntly, for she and I both shared that characteristic or possibly flaw. Joy, she showered me with leftovers often because she would say, "It's not enough for me and Lindsay to have a meal. Here, you take them." Joy, the one I talked horses with and shared horse picks with. Joy, the one that I entrusted the care of my big brother because she had cared for him all these years and all through the surgeries that he had after his retirement. And I wish to add one thing. You visited my big brother one time in all the times that he was having surgeries. One time. And that one time was because Joy gave you a check. And I didn't want to know about it, but Joy confided in me going home what this was about. You never came back. Emily was with us on the phone, on the iPad, continually. But she was 800 miles away. Joy entrusted me with the care of her critters whenever she and Lindsay would be out of town. She had a carefully penned, written instruction sheet for me that I had memorized. However, she always kept it right there by the dog food and pet and cat food containers. Tragically, that's where Joy died. That's where I found Joy, slumped over those dog food and cat food containers. Emily, where do I start with her? Little tow-headed rascal that I plopped on a horse for the first time when she was 2 years old. The following year, I introduced her to showing, much to Lindsay's chagrin, but much to Joy's happiness. Sort of my little protege. I tell her whenever I was showing, don't look at everybody, don't be turning around and grinning, be serious, look between the ears of the pony. Me instructing a little 3-year-old girl what to do and to be serious. She carried that on through her career in showing horses and was very successful. Emily, the one person that I thought maybe would visit me if and when I grew to old age. She's gone now. My lifespan has been cut short by the stress imposed upon me because of you. Emily, I'd often send her pictures of ailments that our cows or horses or dogs or cats would have, asking for her advice. Free vet advice. She would return, giving me a diagnosis, a cause, and treatment. I don't have that anymore. I'd look forward to her post on Facebook of her episodes on the racetrack, various things such as alligators crossing the racetrack, flamingos, flying monkeys, all these things. All I can do is go back and look at the history of her. Lindsay, I lost the big brother who I held on a pedestal. I felt like Lindsay really could do no wrong. That's how much I thought of him. Lindsay was mild-mannered and meek, complete opposite of me. Mama knew that. She told me, you need to take care of Lindsay. I did my best while he was alive, and it haunts me knowing that somewhere along the line I failed because he died that morning, along with his sweet wife and sweet daughter. Lindsay, he gave me advice, whether I wanted it or not, but it was true. It was true, honest advice. He helped me change batteries in trucks. He helped me pull out orange hay strings from mowers. He helped me maintain the material things that we had on the farm because they were hard to get. We worked hard for what we got. Lindsay and I shared that. We took care of what we had. Lindsay would fuss about my horses. Little people know that years ago, Lindsay bought me my second horse. I don't advertise that much. Don't know why in the world he came home with that horse for me. But he did. But he knew that these horses were part of a package deal. If he wanted his cow wrangler, me, he had to accept the horses. So that was our one thing that we did not have in common. But he never said anything about Joy and Emily's horse. But Lindsay was the patriarch of our family. Now, he's gone. He's still our patriarch because I continually think, what would Lindsay do? How would Lindsay do it? This is the way that we always did it. So he is still there making decisions. I'm not the same person I was before October 26, 2014. My friends can attest to that. Sometimes you think, how much worse can it get? Am I calloused? Probably. Do I hate? Up until a time I did, until I saw how much energy it was exhausting. Did I dislike the attorneys that were representing you? I did, until I reconciled myself with that, and we got over that. Something very strange, I'm sure, to do. Without my friends and neighbors' support, I don't know where I'd be, and the rest of the family's support. The loss of my family fuels my daily sobbing, never knowing when it'll occur, never knowing when I'll have a breakdown. It might be in the middle of an important meeting. It might be on the way to doing lessons at a farm. I never know. I go without sleep for days. And there's some days I don't want to do anything but sleep. I have nightmares of my family. I have daymares of my family's deaths. I have guilt if I laugh because I think my family can no longer laugh. I shouldn't be happy about anything. So I carry this severe guilt for ever laughing. I've let things go around my house, my yard. Joy was my idol as far as maintaining a beautifully manicured lawn, a nice house. She was my inspiration. I lost my inspiration. I've lost my zest to maintain those things. The amount of time that this case and the following consequences around it has been unfathomable. It's been difficult to find time for things. Additionally, scarcely minutes pass throughout the day that my mind doesn't wander to those images that were instilled upon me and still are. Hearing the name Ryan Lindsay Champion angers me. It angers me because Joy and Lindsay gave him that name as respect for Lindsay and to possibly carry on the good name of Lindsay Champion. Now, it cuts to the bone. You ought to be ashamed. How I wish we could force you to change your name. It's bad enough what you did, but hearing those two names, Lindsay Champion, associated with you, is just further salt into our wounds. My house, along with Lauren and Judy's house, is brimming over with the artifacts of their lives. Valuable things? No. Little things we don't want to get rid of. Brimming over. My house is small. I gave away many of my things so I could make room for the things that are much more important to me, the pieces that I have left of Lindsay, Joy, and Emily. One piece I have left is this necklace made from a ring of my mother's. I just got it back about 2 months ago. Couldn't even get the necklace off of Emily because of the duct tape that was on her head. It's difficult for me to wear this necklace. Number one, because I'm afraid I'll lose it. Number two, thinking this is what she had on whenever she died. Other things in my house, Joy's wedding dress. The jacket, the brown and white pinstripe jacket that Lindsay wore at their wedding, July 8th, 1972. Prom dresses that Emily wore. Her horse show outfits. Her hats. All remembrances of their lives that were wiped out without a concern on October 26, 2014. The pictures that I look at from Joy, Lindsay, and Emily from years ago, at one time, I'd laugh about these because several of them are comical. It's hard to laugh knowing the reason that I am looking at them is because they're gone and now I have their pictures. Every day, whenever I walk out of my house, the first thing I look at is across the road. I look at Joy and Lindsay and Emily's house. The first thing that I look at. At night, when I'm coming home from work, I glance over. I look for a lamp similar to this lamp right here. The lamp that always was on when Joy and Lindsay were still awake, sitting in their respective recliners. When the lamp went off, they went to bed. There's no light over there anymore. The lamp's gone, just like them. I hear sounds. I think I hear Lindsay coming down the driveway in something. It's not him. I hear Harley going down the road. It's not him. He'll never get to ride another Harley. Joy, her bicycle. I never see her riding her bicycle that I named the Mrs. Gulch bike. She'll never get to ride it again. Emily, her horse. I have her. Emily will never get to ride her horse again. She rode her in July 2014, the time that she was home before she was murdered. At least she survived that visit. Joy, Lindsay, and Emily, they left behind their critters. I have Skylar, Emily's Weimaraner. Emily and Skylar and Joyce Weimaraner had their pictures taken by Joy just a week before they were murdered. Skylar's birthday is October 17th. She turned 10 years old that year. She and Emily, constant companions. Now I have her. Strangely enough, Skylar became deaf that day. Wonder why? Did you hit her? Or was it because Skylar was in the house hearing all those loud gunshots? Handicap enough for Skylar to have lost her mother. Compound that with being deaf. Joy and Lindsay's cats, Dub, BW, Claudine, and Possum. They all live in my basement now. Lindsay would brush these cats daily. I still have the brush that Lindsay would use. I do the best to take care of these cats like they did. I'm not the same. I'm not them. Joy and Emily's horse, 27 years old, living with me. All these things that I look at and I think why they are there with me is because my family was taken from me. The cows. Lindsay and I had the cattle operation together. The cows finally figured out Lindsay's not coming back. Lindsay was the good guy with the cattle. He was the one that moved them from field to field. I was the bad guy. I was the one that got them up for whenever they needed fly tags or needed their injections. They soon found out Lindsay wasn't coming back to move them from field to field. He even had a siren on his vehicles that summoned the next field. I even have a hard time sounding the siren because that was Lindsay's siren that he called a siren. I know my life is a wreck, and there's probably not much hope of it improving. Only consolation is I don't think it could get any worse. Some days it does. The only consolation I have is that one of my 3 family members didn't survive having to know that one or both of the other family members perished. That is my only consolation, along with Mom and Daddy weren't here to have to go through this. The wounds and scars, they'll never go. People say it gets better as time goes on. It's just something to say to ease your mind. It doesn't. I know I have to keep myself together to see this case to the end, because this isn't the end. We still have another case, another trial to pursue. I've been afflicted with a plague. This plague was bestowed upon me, Judy, and Lauren by you, the plague of murdering our family for no reason other than greed. I implore you, Judge Woodall, to assure us and the public this can never be inflicted upon anyone again. Please shut evil away for many lifetimes. Evil took our 3 precious lives from us, resulting in the quality of our lives being severely diminished. Please do this not only for me, Lauren, and Judy, but for Lindsay, Joy, and Emily. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Champion.
And Lauren Champion.
Champion, good morning. You may proceed.
In the early morning, pre-dawn hours, several days after Sunday, October 26, 2014. I woke with a yearning to read the 23rd Psalm in the Old King James. I knew that my son Ethan, your cousin, had left behind his King James Bible from his early school days. After finally finding it, I flipped it open after sitting down. Psalm 37 jumped off the page at me. Long ago, in 6th grade, Ethan had highlighted in bright pink fluorescent highlighter the first 7 verses of Psalm 37. I read, "Do not fret because of evildoers, nor the workers of iniquity. Rest in the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who brings his wicked schemes to pass." Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him and he'll bring it to pass. He'll bring forth your righteousness as the morning light and your justice as the noonday sun. And I thank you, God, because it's soon going to be noon. God had reached down and slapped me in the face with this. You see, at this stage of that first week, my initial shock was beginning to wear off. The denial, the disbelief that this was all a dream was starting to wear off. But it will never completely wear off. It was being replaced by a fierce, burning, revengeful anger directed at you. Verse 8 of Psalm 37 read, "Cease from anger, forsake wrath, do not fret. It only causes harm." God had put the fire out that was burning in me. Lindsay, Joy, and Emily were all born-again Christians, and I thank you, God, for that. In the coming days, the weeks, the months, I was quite often thinking, what would Lindsay do? What would he say? How would he want me to react to all this? See, Lindsay was a meek, mild, gentle man. He was my brother, but all my life he was more like a father figure to me. And I got to thinking that Lindsay, being the fine Christian man that he was, would want me to do the Christian thing. One of the hardest things I pray that I will ever have to do. You see, as Jesus was hanging on the cross in terrible agony, he cried out to God, "God, forgive those who are crucifying me." And earlier in his ministry, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus plainly said, "You must forgive those who sin against you, or your heavenly Father will not forgive you. These thoughts haunted me. I wrestled with them. It wasn't until a year later, in October 2015, as I was surrounded by a group of my Christian brothers, but more importantly, God's Holy Spirit, that I did the hardest thing I fervently pray that I will ever have to do, and that was to forgive you for this awful crime. I truly believe with all my heart that that is what my late brother, your late father, and Jesus wants me to do, and ask to forgive you. Right?
Thank you, Mr. Champion.
Ms. Obie Wiggins.
Thank you, Your Honor. There is little that can be said in addition to the words that have just been spoken by Judy and by Lisa and by Lauren. Unfortunately, there's no words and there's nothing that any of us can do to change what this defendant has done and what he has caused. The pain and the loss that he is responsible for is unspeakable. It's unfathomable. When you start to think about what he's done and what he's caused, there are so many words that come to mind. Heinous, premeditated, cold-blooded, senseless. I could go on and on about descriptors that describe him and his actions and what he has done. Heinous is defined generally as a very bad or evil act. I don't think anybody can question that this was a heinous act. A family that adopted this defendant, that loved this defendant, that raised this defendant, and gave him every opportunity to have a bright future. He just didn't take advantage of it. Premeditated, thought out or planned. There was proof, and the courts heard it in previous hearings, that this has been a plan by the defendant for many, many years. We heard proof that he solicited an individual to murder his family many, many years ago. We heard proof of a girlfriend that had to separate herself from him because of his extreme hatred toward his parents and his voicing of how he would like them dead and how that could be accomplished. Cold-blooded, defined as without emotion, deliberately cruel, or callous. When I think about the word cold-blooded, it fits exactly this case. The murder of the parents that raised you. And I especially think of Emily when I think of the word cold-blooded. And as Lisa Champion said, she looked like a cocoon. She was taped up and suffered because of him, because of his actions. Cold-blooded and senseless. Emily, an equine veterinarian, was going to leave the next day to start a new chapter in her future. Because of him, she didn't have that opportunity. She didn't have the opportunity to see what her future held. She didn't have the opportunity to get married. She didn't have the opportunity to have any children because of him. And Joy and Lindsay didn't have the opportunity to enjoy their retirement, enjoy themselves, enjoy each other because of him and because of his heinous, cold-blooded, premeditated, senseless acts. He did this. He's admitted it. We have seen no emotion from him. We have heard no apology, and we have heard no regret. It has been a long and painful road from October 26, 2014 to today. I'm going to ask you at this time to sentence this defendant, Ryan Champion, pursuant to the plea agreement, sentence him to life without the possibility of parole. And it's my hope that that sentence gives everyone in this room comfort that he will never be a free man again because of what he has done and because of the pain and the loss that he has caused. Thank you.
Ms. Lynch and Mr. Champion and Ms. Woosnam, if you all would stand there, considering the nature and circumstances of these crimes and your history as set out in the pre-sentence investigation report, I do find that there's no reason for delay in imposition of the sentence at this time. That, of course, by definition, the victims suffered death as a result of the crimes, and that imprisonment is necessary for the protection of the public. You're ineligible for probation or any kind of alternative sentence or conditional discharge. And so I am going to sentence you at this time consistently with the plea agreement under count 1 for the intentional murder of Boyd Lindsay Champion, life in the penitentiary without the benefit of probation or parole. Under count 2 for the intentional murder of Joy A. Champion, life in the penitentiary without the benefit of probation or parole. Under count 3 for the intentional murder of Emily K. Champion, life in the penitentiary without the benefit of probation or parole. Count 4 for the intentional murder of Vito Reservato, life in the penitentiary without the benefit of probation or parole. And under count 5 for the kidnapping of Emily Champion, life in the penitentiary. All of those sentences are to run concurrently or together for the life in the penitentiary, your life in the penitentiary without benefit of probation or parole. As noted earlier, you will receive the credit for the time prior to sentencing that you have been incarcerated. And at this time, I do remand you to the custody of the Department of Corrections to begin service of this life sentence without probation or parole. Thank you very much, counsel. Mr. Jailer, you take him into custody, please. Mr. Sheriff. Thank you, Ms. Obie Wiggins. That does conclude our official business this morning, and so court is adjourned.